Welcome to this episode of I Took the Risk. I'm your host, Corey Bishop, and here we have a special guest, Molly Giordano, an author and the executive director of the Delaware Art Museum. Let's get into the episode. Molly's story, from a background in the public service sector, to executive director in the museum. What's the story behind it?
Well, I started here in 2010. It's hard to believe I've been here for 11 years. It certainly wasn't my intent when I started here. And I originally was going for a career in the public sector, politics, public health. I thought I was going to be a social worker. And I thought this would be a brief journey, a brief stop on my journey to work at the museum for a few years while I was in graduate school. And I just fell in love with this institution. I used to come here on free Sundays. I already lived in the neighborhood. Art is a big part of my family's history. It was always a passion of mine, and for some reason I just didn't think that I was the type of person that a museum was looking for. And it took me a few years to discover that not only was I the right type of person a museum was looking for, I was the type of person museums needed as they became more public entities. I mean, I've always thought of the arts as a public good, and my greatest joy in life is making sure art is accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. I think that art is very important. Wasn't one of my strong suits in school. I was always a stick figure kind of person.
Yeah.
But to see how art and see how people can be so artistic with their visions and whatever they want to draw, or not even just paint with their words, I think it's very, very cool and then be able to put that into their story, incorporate their own life journey into that as well. So how does the Delaware Art Museum serve as a hub for its community?
We've been here for 110 years, and I think over the century, longer than a century, we've been a lot of different things to different people, but at the core of our mission has always been education and connecting people to art. So at the very basic form, school kids coming in, we have studio classes where you can actually try your hand, maybe improving your stick figures in our drawing classes, ceramics. And over the last 5-10 years, we've been thinking more deeply about what it means to be a community space. We're really bringing together our community members for civic discourse around art. So taking it from the classes and the tours and really us teaching at people and bringing them into conversations. This exhibition that we're sitting in is a primary example. It was sort of a community built in that exhibition. And it's just one of the many ways we get people to coalesce together in a creative capacity to learn from one another, to learn from art, to learn from our cultural and civic history. And I'm excited to see where we've come over the past 10 years. And now we really feel like the organic gathering spot that we'd always hoped to become.
I think that having something like this in Wilmington and creating it to be a staple in the community to serve not only just for art exhibits, but for art classes, for the next emerging young artist, and painter or poet or even executive. So how is the museum supporting emerging artists and creatives in the community?
So one way I like to think of the museum is we're part of a robust cultural ecosystem. There's us, there's the Contemporary, there's DCAD, the Delaware College of Art and Design, and we all need to be working together to ensure that artists that are just starting their careers or beginning to emerge have the support that we need. And the museum is just one kind of piece of that puzzle. Of course, having classes, connecting people, but for us, it's really about infusing that vibrancy into the city, working with our elected officials to make sure the arts is on the agenda, it's getting funded. There are actual opportunities to support artists as they move through their careers. We just started something we call the Young Artist Coaching Program. And we like to consider it like life coach for artists as they're trying to figure out how do I start my artistic practice? What is the support that I need? And there are just so many ways we're trying to tackle this question. But I really think, like I said earlier, we're just one piece of many people that are trying to make the creative economy more vibrant, not just for the artists so that they can have an economically viable path, but also for the health of our entire city. I mean, any strong city, any strong community needs a really vibrant, creative, and artistic class. And I think Wilmington has incredible artists, has great assets, but it still has a long way to go to make it feel like it's a space where artists are truly supported and valued and at the center of our work. So those are just a couple of the ways we try and do that. But I think in the coming years, we'll be thinking a lot more about how we're supporting that effort and what the museum can do.
Okay. I definitely think that you guys partnering with those other entities will be big for for creatives in general, because that'll give them a sense of, oh well, maybe I can't go here, but I can go here, but they all work together and to become one to help me get to my eventual dream. It's become an emerging artist. So what led you into the career in art and museum management?
A little bit of an accident. You know, my mom's an artist. She's an art history professor, and I'm a writer. I write fiction in my spare time. And the arts is so important to me, but again, it never felt like an accessible path forward. It never felt like something I could make a living at. And I kind of found this job by happenstance, and that's incredibly rare for somebody like me to be leading a museum, especially somebody at my age too. And I think once I got here and I realized a museum combined all of the things I love, public administration, management, working with the community, understanding the historical context of art. We have a thriving literary program here now. It became sort of a place where I've never felt more at home than I felt here at the museum. So I think that's sort of a roundabout way of saying that it was a little bit of an accident that I'm here, and this is certainly not where I thought I'd be 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, sometimes you stumble upon great things by accident.
That's right.
And I think you stumbled on something great. Could you talk to me about a little bit work-life balance? I know you mentioned you write in your spare time, and your mom is an artist as well. I don't know how often you get to still write with everything going on.
Not as much as I wish.
But could you just kind of talk about that for some creatives out there that, you know, are still kind of doing that 9 to 5-ish kind of life and want to be creative?
Yeah, and work-life balance is like, I don't know, the thing I think about every day. I have 2 little kids, I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I just finished my MFA in creative writing last spring, which was something that I promised myself as soon as I could afford to do it, I would do it and finish that degree. And I mean, I used to think as a writer that you needed to devote large chunks of uninterrupted quiet time to get your work done. And I've learned that even 20 minutes that I can jot something down, even like 30 minutes that I can have is productive. And so for people who are holding down that 9 to 5, they've got their creative endeavors to just kind of keep grinding it out as best you can. And when you keep working on it, something will come out of it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Your process doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you have the commitment, it's, I think, worthy of everyone creating. That's
great. And also, that actually flows into the next question. As far as advice, what advice would you share with the youth or people in the community that are looking to build their careers in the arts and humanities industry?
I would say just be part of the fabric of the artistic life of if they're here in Wilmington. I mean, go to the events, raise your hand for some of the volunteer activities, show up, ask people to go to coffee for 20 minutes and pick their brain. It's such an inviting, supportive group of people, and everybody I know seems so excited and eager to welcome new people in, especially younger people. Especially seeing young people excited about pursuing an artistic life. I think it's just kind of about showing up and saying that you care, and the dots eventually start to get connected.
Most definitely. I think the first part of being successful in the field of entrepreneurship is you have to want it. Yeah. Because if anybody else knows that if you're an entrepreneur, you have to want it for yourself before anybody else wants it for you. So I definitely think that is great advice. Also, so I'm going to pivot a little bit. You guys had a new exhibit. Could you tell us a little bit more about the AfroAmerican Images in the 1971 exhibit? I understand it was an event as well. Could you just talk to us about the exhibit? What's popular about the exhibit?
So the exhibition is called AfroAmerican Images 1971, the Vision of Percy Ricks. Okay. And Percy Ricks was from Washington, D.C., a Howard alum, but moved up to Wilmington. This is kind of the middle of the 20th century. And he became the first African-American art instructor in Wilmington's public school system. And immediately he got connected with other artists in the region. He himself was an artist, and he became sort of ingrained in the fabric of the artistic community in Wilmington. He had a hand in shaping the direction of the Christiana Cultural Arts Center. He taught just generations of students in the Wilmington public school system. He had his own artistic practice, and he curated. So the show today is reprising an exhibition by almost the same name that happened 50 years ago in 1971. And he was working with just both important and well-known and some lesser-known Black artists of the day, from Washington all the way up through New York. And his vision was to create an exhibition to celebrate their work and their vision. He had come to the Delaware Art Museum and asked if they would be interested in hosting the show here. He did not get a response. We don't know exactly if there was just any documented response or if they just ignored it. He went ahead and had it at the Wilmington Armory, which just a few years earlier had housed the National Guard during the occupation of 1968.
Wow.
Which was a strong linkage. I mean, some of the artists that were showing their work were directly reflecting on those events less than 3 years earlier. So it went on to be in the Wilmington Armory, and it sort of got lost a little bit to the sands of time. There wasn't a catalog, it wasn't in art history textbooks. This exhibition was so important and it wasn't getting taught. So the museum, with the surviving members of Mr. Ricks's group, Aesthetic Dynamics, co-presented this exhibition, tracking down as many of the original works of art that were in that show as we could find, pulling together the people who were living at that time to tell their stories of this exhibition and Percy's life and vision. And we were able to open it just a couple weeks ago in October, after 6-7 years of painstaking research and fundraising to get this show off the ground.
Nice.
It's open through January 23rd. There's still plenty of time to see it, but it's worth not just one visit, but 2 or 3 visits. There's a lot to unpack in this show.
Wow, I definitely want to come and see something like this. I didn't even know that it was. I understand that we're only half of the part of the exhibit, so I definitely would be looking forward to seeing the whole thing. In the position you are in now, what would you do differently and why? Or what advice would you give to your younger self with the knowledge you have now?
The advice to my younger self, I have so many things to say to my younger self. I think number one, most people want to see others succeed. And when you're young and you're starting out and you're feeling insecure and you don't know if you're kind of going in the right direction, you have that self-doubt and questioning. Pushing through and realizing that people are there to support you, they want to see you succeed, to not just get down on yourself when things go wrong, but to kind of celebrate some of those failures a little bit and see them as a learning opportunity is something I wish I could tell my former self. If I could have just gone back to myself like 15 years ago and said, cut it out with the worrying and ruminating and anxiety and just keep going forward, I would have saved myself a lot of sleepless nights. And I wish I could tell myself that. Also, if you have something you want to do, it's never the right time. I had a baby, I was like, I'm getting this MFA. You never have enough money, you never have enough time. At some point, you just got to press forward and say, I'm doing this. That's my biggest piece of advice, but I'm sure I could sit here all day and think of others.
No, I think those are great pieces of advice, because a lot of up and coming artists or creatives or just people in general sometimes need that to just keep pushing forward, because we all have our off days, and that might be the push through that we need to get us through that day or through that project or through that assignment. So I want to thank you. Also, do you guys have any upcoming events here at the museum?
We do. In addition to the exhibition, and first off, we're just open Wednesday through Sunday from 10 to 4 p.m., 8 p.m. on Thursdays. We're also free late Thursday evenings and free on Sundays. We have tons of events and programs happening. We have a winter arts fair, which is happening on Saturday, December 11th, outside in the sculpture garden. You can come, you can eat, you can do your holiday shopping, support local artists and artisans. It'll be a fun all-day event. In January, I think it's Monday, January 19th, is the MLK Day of Service, and the museum is sort of the kickoff space for the community-wide reflection and celebration. And we always have studio classes, we have performances coming up, so definitely check the website, delaware.org, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and go to our website and sign up for our email newsletter.
Definitely. I hope our viewers tune in and get some artistic knowledge and just want to come hang out with you guys. Also, and that was going to be my next thing, where could the viewers find you at? But you said it on all your platforms. And it was a great opportunity to come and do this interview with you, and I look forward to continuing seeing the growth of the museum, and also looking forward to the Percy Ricks Afro-American 1971 exhibit.
Great, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.